Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon and Ascendant for the month of November. I hope you are well. I'm using what am I using here? The Night Sun Tarot for you today. Hair everywhere. So let's get on with this and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Cancer, please? Oh, there's the first. We have the High Priestess in your recent past. Current energy for Cancer is the Five of Pentacles. And what's coming towards Cancer, please? We have the Sun. So whatever you are worrying about right now, Cancer, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think you have to do it. Or maybe you do. Sometimes we worry about things and then we realise later on that it's not. That perhaps we were overthinking, or perhaps something had, little basis in reality. Retrospect is a wonderful thing, right? Let's get some clarifiers out and see what's going on here. Tell me about the High Priestess, please. We have the 3 of Wands, and we have the 8 of Swords. Interesting. Tell me about the 5 of Pentacles. We've got the 7 of Wands. And the King of Cups, Scorpio energy right there. And then the Sun. Why is this here, please? We have the Fool. And we have the 9 of Wands. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Father of Wands, which is the King of Wands in a standard deck. In addition to, I didn't even show you, the Queen of Pentacles at the bottom of the main deck here. Now, this feels, interestingly, already like it's kind of following a theme that I am seeing for most of the signs that I have read for so far, and I am almost halfway through all the readings now for November. Which is to say that, things have been a little bit challenging, shall we put it that way, and there have been things to be concerned about, and yet there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is somehow the fruits of your labours. Every month there seems to be a phrase that seems to be coming out across the signs, and this month it is the fruits of your labours kind of coming to fruition, coming into bloom almost. But there's also quite a bit in these clarifiers here. There's a bit of a push and a pull going on. Actually, we see it in the main card with your current energy too. It's almost like things are bad, but things could be good. Am I hoping, beyond reason for something, or is this something realistic that's actually going to come to bear? Now, when we start here with your recent past, we have the High Priestess. As we know, that's a card of Pisces. Some people attribute it to Cancer, but it's very firmly Pisces in my head. And regardless, it speaks to similar themes that we associate with you, Cancer, as it is. So we've got a high level of psychic awareness, a distinct sensitivity, but an openness to move from an intuitive position rather than necessarily having an evidential base for something that we do. And we're seeing that under here with the 3 of Wands and the 8 of Swords. And if we just skip to the 8 of Swords for a second, coming on this sort of push-pull thing that I feel like is going on at the moment, right? What we've got here is not only a push-pull between what you are doing and what you are thinking, like how you're really perceiving a situation or how you were perceiving a situation, but also this push-pull between the High Priestess and the 8 of Swords, because the 8 of Swords is about mental restriction. It is about feeling like you are trapped, feeling like you don't have a way out, right? And the High Priestess is a much more fluid energy. But when we're dealing with the High Priestess, she is always coming from a place of intuition. She is coming from a place of spirituality and higher knowing of things. Those things that you know and yet you cannot prove. And this is something that Cancers are very familiar with, because you do tend to move on feeling and gut feeling and intuition and sometimes even instinct. These two, it's not that they're diametrically opposed, because actually they're not. It's just that there seems to be a bit of tension between the two of them at the moment, because the High Priestess, higher wisdom, knowledge that's coming from a place that you can't really pin down. The Eight of Swords is the point where you try and reconcile that mentally. You go, I've got this really strong feeling that I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I should perhaps not do this, or not do that. But you try and explain it to people, and they have no idea what you're talking about. They go, like, that's really weird. Why would you feel like that? And you go, I don't know. It's just something in my gut is saying I shouldn't do this, or I should do this. That lack of evidential basis that I was talking about here is very clearly summed up by those two cards, kind of working almost in opposition, but certainly in a state of tension with each other. But when we bring in the Three of Wands here, it feels a little bit, and actually it's really striking quite how well those cards connect with each other there. You can see the horizontal lines in the back running across both cards. The Three of Wands is the things that you do. If the Two of Wands is a crossroads energy, which it is, and as such, being numbered a 2, also it's very much concerned with the internal rather than the external experience. It's that point where you hit a crossroads in any sense, and you say, right, I want to go this way, or, well, yeah, should I go this way or should I go that way? And you kind of walk through the consequences of following either route and see if it's where you want to end up, right? There's going to be challenges, but is it going to be worth it in the end? Is the juice worth the squeeze? All that sort of thing, right? The 3 is when, having made that decision, you then start taking steps in that direction. Now, the fact that the Three of Wands is coming out under the High Priestess says to me that all of your moves at this point are intuitive. You are going very much with feelings about things. But the fact that the Eight of Swords is here too feels to me a little bit like the waters are getting muddied, because you are trying to look for that evidential basis. Perhaps you are having to try and convince other people, or you don't actually have to do that, but maybe that is what you've been doing. The direction of travel that you are moving in is what is right for you. But in trying to sit down and explain this in a way that somebody else could understand, you're sort of coming up against a bit of a brick wall, and then you're second guessing yourself and looking at the situation and going, well, actually I really don't have that much in the way of evidence to support why I've made this decision, or why I'm moving in this direction, or why I'm moving away from something else. And it feels like it's caused a bit of internal conflict with you. Notice that it's only when you're trying to justify this to somebody else, perhaps trying to get somebody else on board, or whatever, that the issues are coming up. It's almost like everything's fine until you start trying to explain it to somebody else. But the wisdom of the High Priestess is actually only for you at this point, right? It's not for you to justify your position or try and validate your position to anybody else. You shouldn't feel the need to do that. Well, there we go with those parenting words. I hate those parenting words. But it's true. That information is for you and you alone. Your path is for you and you alone. And where you provide a level of interference, either by your own mind or somebody else's, this is when the tension starts to occur. Now, if we move into your current energy, we've got the Five of Pentacles, and as we're aware of, any card number 5 tends to be, certainly the minor arcana, tends to be a pretty challenging energy. This one specifically deals with lack, right? So that can be a lack of money, it can be a financial lack, it can be a spiritual lack where you just feel like you kind of cut adrift from things. It can be an emotional lack too, where you're not getting what you need from other people. I mean, sometimes it can be you're not getting what you need emotionally from yourself, and sometimes we trip up and we think that that's other people's responsibility, right? I've certainly been in that position myself a number of times. But it can also speak to a fear of those things. And as we know, right, and it's interesting that I started out this reading in saying that, what did I say? Something along the lines of, kind of thinking that things were worse than they actually were, right? That would be where the fear of the lack comes in. The fear perhaps of the consequences of doing something or not doing something. But we've got under here the Seven of Wands and the King of Cups, Father of Cups. And it sort of speaks to, it's interesting because there are several different ways of looking at this combination of cards with the Five of Pentacles. I mean, the first is that the Seven of Wands often indicates where we feel like we need to protect ourselves, where we feel we need to defend ourselves. And those two things are slightly different. There's a really strong nuance between the two. And if we haven't quite worked out whether we're guarding and defending ourselves from perceived attack, or we are just taking, sensible steps to protect ourselves, sometimes we can come a cropper. But it does also speak to this burning light in the darkness. And I said that right at the beginning there that it was interesting to me that it felt like to you weren't quite sure whether you were being sensible or whether you were just inputting hope, what you hope to see in a situation. You feel like you kind of tangled yourself up a little bit when actually things are really quite straightforwards. And then we have this Father of Cups. Now, Father of Cups is Scorpio energy, and you might be dealing with a Scorpio. If you are, then all's good. But it speaks to emotional maturation as well, right? It talks about, it's the active expression of water energy, right? You are the Queen of Cups, naturally. That's what you do, right? It's a very internalized experience for you because queens are receptive, right? It's about how you deal with things that come to you. But water is receptive too. So this is where your high levels of sensitivity come in, because you literally just receive all of the input and then you've got to try and make sense of it. The King of Cups, on the other hand, is about the active expression of this energy. So it's not just how you feel it inside, but how you express it outwardly. Because we're kind of dealing with the top echelons of the court hierarchy here, we are talking about rising to the top, emotional maturity. I'm going to pull one more card to see which, wow, fired straight out. High Priestess with the World card at the bottom of the deck. That's really interesting. The World card is a card of completion. It's a card of endings, but they're generally quite joyful endings. It's not like a kind of Ten of Swords sort of completion where you're like, well, fuck, that was horrible and I've escaped and I'm never going to have to go through that again. This is more like a graduation. And this fits very nicely with what we're seeing with the King of Cups, right? It is moving up. It is, I feel, with this Ace of Swords underneath here, changing the way that you think, changing the way that you perceive what is going on, right? We're going from an Eight of Swords over here, which is a very frustrating position to find yourself in. Like, it's hugely frustrating. And it has all sorts of echoes of a possibility of kind of really just hoping that somebody will come and save you from, well, possibly from yourself, actually. But as we know, that isn't something that happens. But we're going to an Ace, right? Which is like a light going on for me. It is that point of epiphany. And with the High Priestess coming out again to clarify here, I really do feel that whatever discomfort that you're feeling at the moment about this tension between, what you think and what you feel is pushing you towards leaning into the feeling. King of Cups is all about the feeling. It's not necessarily about wearing your heart on your sleeve. It's about being able to actually to look objectively at your emotions and make sure that they are coming from the right place. We say like all feelings are valid, and they absolutely are. But not all feelings are reasonable. And that's the difference. And I wonder if you were to step back objectively, or maybe this is the problem. Maybe you are trying to view things a little too objectively at the moment, and this is where the Eight of Swords is really sort of tripping you up. It's kind of like a spiritual objectivity that we're after here. So we're not looking necessarily for any solid concrete evidence, solid validation that you're on the right path. You know, there's much more to be said here about trusting in whatever intuitions are coming to you at this time and the movements that you are making thereafter. I'm not worrying too much about the lack or the perceived possibility of the lack that seems to be kind of swimming around in your energy at the moment. You know, are you worried about the judgment of other people? Are you worried about, you know, how this is going to look to other people? Are you worried about having to explain yourself to people, frankly, who don't have any skin in the game when it comes to what it is that you are doing? You know, obviously, if you have close partners, you know, children, parents, but like people who are invested in something that is going to affect them too in a meaningful way, then it's right that they get a say in what's happening, that they get to express an opinion. But where these are people who are perhaps well-intentioned, well-meaning, but lack your insight, lack your understanding, opening up to them and allowing them to have an opinion on it is what's muddying the waters for you. Because we've got the King of Wands here, we've got the King of Cups here, and we have the Queen of Pentacles too. This is all about self-nurturing. This is all about you making the decisions for you, you understanding what is right for you, and then you acting accordingly. And I feel like you've been either holding yourself back, or I feel really quite nauseous as I'm talking to you now. Like, I feel like you're really worried about this. Same thing happened in the meditation before I started the camera rolling. The need to lean into yourself, Cancer, is really strong. I'm not talking about, you know, this being ruthlessly, psychotically independent and disregarding anything that anybody else might say, but treating other people's opinions as simply that, opinions. They are not the framework within which you should be operating at the moment, right? It's useful to have that extra information. It's useful to have an alternative perspective on what you are doing at the moment. But they shouldn't form the cornerstones of your actions. Because there's some guidance here that is being brought to you by Spirit, by Universe, you know, whatever your connection is to whatever it is. And it's asking you to lean into that. It's asking you to continue to act in that vein. And where the graduation comes in here, where the levelling up comes in here, is by leaving behind an old part of you that would take other people's perspectives and other people's opinions and use them as a cornerstone within which you were allowed to work. You know, it runs quite deep, because we can certainly see it kind of having an effect on your sense of identity, your sense of purpose, but also a sense of what you're allowed to do and what you're not. And if you're thinking in those terms of what you're allowed to do and what you're not, then you're straying from the path. Because you need to make the rules, Cancer. You need to make the framework within which you operate. And obviously there will be consequences. There are always consequences. But if you want true freedom and liberation and an authentic experience of fulfillment, it has to come from you and you alone. Like, that understanding, not just understanding actually, but you know, combined with actual behaviour, is the thing that will see you graduate up, will see you become much more powerful with your own sense of self becoming more powerful. You know, directing your own play, steering your own ship. What we got coming towards you in November is the sun. And I love this for you because, you know, okay, the sun's just popped over the top of the trees there. That's magnificent. The sun is a card of great joy and positivity, right? It talks to things going really well, but it also talks to a number of other things. For me, it can speak to your inner child, and your inner child kind of getting a look in at what you want, you know, what you're doing, what you want to do. Sometimes it's about stepping your inner child down and saying, you don't have to be in charge of everything. I'm okay, I'm an adult, I can do this, it's fine, there's nothing for you to fear, I can protect you. But it also speaks to consciousness here, and there's almost like a sense, the picture that I've got is of you swimming to the surface and breaking the surface of the water and being able to breathe. It's like coming into an awareness of you. Now I realise that kind of sounds a bit vague, and yeah, like, bear with me. Because we've also got the Fool and we've got the Nine of Wands here. Now the Nine of Wands for me is a card that speaks about resilience. It is a card that speaks about character development, and we can definitely see what you're going through here at the moment as being something that would reflect that. But it also talks about boundaries. And this is something that we have spoken about at length for years and years and years. Now, over 3 years, actually, this has been coming up. But I don't feel like I'm haranguing you or hectoring you when I'm bringing these gently back to your attention, because boundaries always need work. Where we become complacent, we feel like we've put up boundaries and that's sufficient, thank you very much, we're all good. And then we wander off and we do something else. We're really not attending to the point of boundaries, and that is that they are flexible and they are movable, and that they exist in different places for different people in different situations. It is a constant process of moving these things around to ensure that you are protected and comfortable, and you know, all of the things that we want, like your interactions with other people, which are so important to you, Cancer, are operating in the best possible way. You know, the other thing that I find really striking as I'm sitting here and looking at this card for you is that, like I said at the beginning, for me, the moon is the card of Cancer. What we've got here is a series of steps, you know, elevating you and getting you closer to what is your, you know, tarot correspondence and everything that the moon represents, which is a deep understanding of those things that are hidden, those things that are not seen by other people. Like I said right at the beginning there, like the message of the High Priestess, whatever it has been for you, is for you and you alone. It's not for the consumption of everybody else. It's not for the comprehension of everybody else. It is for you and you alone. And so we've got a sun and a moon here sitting together. Consciousness and the subconscious, consciousness and the non-conscious. Consciousness, which kind of represents almost in some ways your presence out here on this 3D plane, if you will, and the subconscious, which is your connection to something really quite profound that is talking directly to you and asking you to move. In light of what it is saying, like move in a particular direction, take a particular path. It is possible to be both vulnerable and to be protected. And it's a very strong position to be able to do that. Being vulnerable and open with people, yet also cognizant of the boundaries that keep you safe. Now, the other card that we've got here in this glorious little trifecta of what's coming towards you in November is the Fool. Now, the Fool is a new start, and it's a wonderful card to see off the back of a world card, right? This is tying up an old cycle, graduating, if you will. And then we move up to the Fool, and you continue along the Fool's journey until you reach the World again, and then you start again from here, and so on and so forth. Ever growing, ever maturing, ever becoming more wise, but coming out of cycles that keep you stuck. The only thing here that is really keeping you stuck is your own mind, and I feel like that is because it is under the influence of other people. And it could be that you really value their opinion, but are you overvaluing it? And is this where the tension has occurred between what is coming to you in a spiritual sense, in an emotional sense, and what other people are reflecting back to you? This is a card of breaking free. The Sun is also a card in some ways of breaking free too. It's about an authentic expression, of an authentic experience of being who you are in all senses. It also talks about trust and things like that, but like you are right at the start, like right at the end of the end, if you will, and all you need is just a tiny little shove to push you over into beginnings now. And I feel like it's this little bit of tension here that's stopping you committing to it. Let's pull another card for the Fool, because where there's a change on the inside, there's a change on the outside too, right? Your exterior always, or your external experience rather, always reflects your internal experience. That was the Six of Wands that just tried to jump there. We've got the Four of Cups. This is a card that kind of haunts you, Cancer. It follows you around. We've got the Three of Wands. The Fool is about a new start, a new cycle. In some ways it's about, really, if I can, like, actually just throwing yourself into the void and trusting that you're going to be okay. Trusting that what you are holding within you now and the way that you actually want to operate as a human being is the right way for you. That there's a guidance here for you. You know, the Four of Cups talks about this with you for a very long time, right? It's about rejection and it's about rejecting. Sometimes it's about abandonment issues. But it's that sense of you not really ever being enough, right? And that's what you take in from other people, and then that's the narrative that you tell yourself. But then we've got the Three of Wands here, reflecting this Three of Wands that we saw earlier on, and it's about changing your behaviour. It's about what you do for you, you know. Where you're paying too much attention to everybody else, this will always be at play for you. When you are being true to yourself, this is where the Sun comes in, it's where the Fool comes in, it's where the Three of Wands comes in. And I just want to point out something that I didn't see until just a second ago when I picked up the King of Wands. We've got the Tower card sitting behind it. Now, if you are right on the edge of making a decision that is going to change everything for you, Cancer, but for some reason, and I feel like the some reason is other people, you are hesitating because, you know, you're concerned about what the consequences might be, because this is what other people have told you. If you're concerned because suddenly what was very clear has got very, very muddy and you're not entirely sure why, you know, is this a question of your judgment, or you know, have you really got it that wrong? Or are you right and other people don't understand? Like, I would err on the side of you are right and other people don't understand. Like I said, the High Priestess's message is for you and you alone. But this feels to me like you are getting ready to make a really, really big change. And if you've been, the word, procrastinating, there we go. If you've been procrastinating about this because you haven't quite got it set in your head yet where you are going and what you are doing and if it's the right thing and stuff, I feel like November is a month that sees you go, actually, do you know what, I'm going to push towards it. I'm going to stop paying attention to everybody else's opinion, and I'm going to lean into the High Priestess and everything that she represents for me, because she is trying to guide you at this point, Cancer. Okay. This is very, very interesting. I'm going to go over to Vimeo now and pull this apart a little bit and see what's going on specifically in November. So if you would like to join me over there, the link is in the description box. You could alternatively come and join my not my Patreon. I've shifted off Patreon now. Join my Circle community. The link is also in the description for that. And then you get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost. Plus you get to meet a whole group of really cool people, because there are a lot of them there. If neither of those appeal, that's absolutely fine. What I would say, what I would implore of you at this point, Cancer, is to sit with how you feel. Sit with what you know. And I mean that know in that sense. And consider where it is that you are being guided to walk. And consider the possibility that not everybody is supposed to go with you on this one. And if they're true friends, or you know, the relationship that you have with these people is one that has a good foundation, is built well, then ultimately it should not make that much difference what you choose to do. If, on the other hand, people are flipping their biscuits over decisions that you're making about your life that don't affect them, really, I think it tells you a lot about the kind of people that are around you at this point. And this is for you to work out. But really, pay attention to what the High Priestess is bringing in for you, what she's trying to tell you, and really, really lean into that. Because that's the path to the Fool. That's the path to the sun for you. You know? Alright, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I will see you soon.